Excel, mastering if and welcome. Today, we're going to unlock one of the most useful tools in your entire Excel toolkit. We're going to break down a really powerful formula that can take 2, 3, or even more rules and just automate a decision for you in a snap. Please like and subscribe. The conclusion will surprise you. Let's say you need to check if a sale was over a certain amount, and if it was made in a specific region, or maybe if an order was shipped and paid for. How in the world do you get Excel to check both of those things at once? Well, the best way to wrap your head around this is with a super simple analogy. The two-key lockbox. It's simple. If you only have one of the keys, you get nothing. You absolutely have to have both keys, and they've got to be the right keys for that box to open. Our game plans start with the lockbox idea. Break down the actual formula. Put it to work with some real examples. Show you how to make it super flexible. Take a look at where you can go from here. The lockbox logic, you'll see how it perfectly mirrors the logic that we're trying to build in our spreadsheet. It's really all about meeting multiple conditions that are just non-negotiable. The process here is really simple, but it's also super strict. First, you check for key number 1. Got it? Is it the right one? Great. Then you check for key number 2. Is that one correct too? It's only if the answer is yes to both of those questions that the lock turns and you get what's inside. If even one of those keys is wrong, nope, the box stays shut. The formula syntax. How do we actually tell Excel about our lockbox? Let's get into the actual formula syntax and see how it builds directly from our analogy. We're basically just going to learn how to speak lockbox in the language of Excel. And here it is. Now, I know it might look a little complicated at first glance, but trust me, it's just our lockbox written out in code. The if part sets up the choice, and that and function right in the middle. That's the part that holds all our keys, checking to see if every single one of them is correct. And this is where it all clicks. The and part is the lock mechanism itself. The value if true, well, that's the prize you get when it opens. The value if false is simply what happens if the keys don't work. The box just stays shut. See, it maps perfectly. Real-world examples, enough theory. This is the fun part. Let's take this logic and solve some common real-world problems. We're going to move from the idea of a lockbox to actually getting stuff done and automating our work. Example 1, order status. Here's a classic business scenario. We can't close an order just because it was delivered, right? We also have to get paid. Both of those things have to be true. This is a perfect job for our two-key lockbox. So let's look at our data. For every single order, we need to look at 2 places. The status column, that's our first key. The payment date column, that's our second key. Our goal is to fill in that final status column automatically. And here is the magic that does it. We're telling Excel if the status in cell B2 is equal to delivered and the payment date in cell C2 is not empty. And that's what those 2 little brackets, GROR, mean. It's just Excel's quirky way of saying not blank. Then you should write closed. If not, just write open. And boom, check out the result. Just look at order 103. See? Even though it was delivered, the payment date is missing, so our formula correctly keeps it marked as open. The lockbox didn't open because we only had one of the 2 keys. It worked perfectly. Example 2, checking a number range. Here's another super common one you're going to use all the time. Checking if a number falls inside a specific range. We need to check if a value is above our minimum requirement and also below our maximum. Again, same exact logic, 2 separate conditions that both have to be true. So this formula is interesting because it checks the very same cell against 2 different rules. Is the value in B2 greater than 50? Is that value in B2 also less than 100? If both are true, we put an X in the cell. If not, we just leave it blank with those double quotes. Pro-level power, so far our formula has just given us back simple text. But what if the prize in our lockbox was something a bit more dynamic? Let's look at how we can make these formulas way more powerful. This is the pro-level stuff. Dynamic calculations. Remember the prize inside our lockbox? It doesn't just have to be a simple word like closed or open. The prize can actually be another calculation, like figuring out a sales commission or adding a penalty fee. Take a look at this one. Here, what we're saying is, if the sale amount is $100 or more and the status is closed, then our prize is to calculate a 10% bonus on that sale amount. If not, the bonus is just 0. The formula does the math for us, but only when our specific rules are met. Cell referencing. And this right here is a total game changer. Instead of typing your numbers like 50 and 100 directly into the formula, you can point to other cells that hold those values. This means if your sales targets change next quarter, you just update those 2 cells, F1 and F2, and every single formula on your sheet updates instantly. You never have to touch the formulas themselves. It's so much better. Advanced logic and next steps. Once this two-key lockbox idea really clicks for you, you're going to realize that you can build some seriously powerful decision-making systems right inside your spreadsheet. For starters, you are not limited to just 2 keys. You could demand 10 conditions be met before something happens. You can also nest formulas inside of each other, creating a whole chain of logic. Or you can get really fancy and combine and with or for some incredibly sophisticated tests. And the cool thing is, even when things get this complex, our simple little lockbox analogy still totally works. So don't be intimidated by it. It might be a chain of lockboxes now, or maybe one single box with 100 keyholes, but the fundamental logic you learned today is exactly the same. So what's the bottom line here? The big takeaway is this. Anytime you find yourself saying, okay, I need to do this, but only if this thing is true and that thing is also true, you now have the perfect tool for the job. You have the keys to automate that decision. So I'll leave you with this question. I want you to think about your own spreadsheets, your own daily tasks. Where are you manually checking 2 different things before you make a decision? Because you now know exactly how to build a formula that can do all that heavy lifting for you. Add to the comments what Excel subject you want to see next.